It's senior night in Washington, and a share of the Mid-Illini Conference Championship is on the line. Metamora and Washington are ready to go at it, and Clutch Sports Media has all the action for you live. Welcome into the Raymond R. Torrey Gymnasium. I'm Joey Wright with Gavin Russell. Gavin, a share of the Mid-Illini Conference Championship on the line. Need we say any more? Both these teams have lost just 8 combined games against 44 combined wins. It's going to be a high-level battle tonight.
Oh, this is an elite matchup, Joey, and the Mid-Illini Conference has been really, really good with basketball this year, both boys and girls. This should be no different. JV game behind us is an indicator of how good it's going to be tonight.
Had to turn our head around, folks, as we record the Open. The JV game is absolutely electric. You can hear the crowd behind us. The table is set for a tremendous varsity showdown, and we're going to see a tremendous amount of skill. Gavin, you're wearing the Bradley red. We're going to see a Bradley commit in Washington's Claire Mcdougall. We're going to see a Northern Illinois commit. Metamora's Katie Ramage, albeit for softball, but a terrific basketball player she is as well, and a couple more high-level commits. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of college-level talent and some kind of in the making that we'll see probably next year and the couple years after that. Really, there's just a lot of star talent, but I don't think, it's just star players alone. We got to look at the depth of this team up and down both of these rosters, players that can come in, make big plays, and we should see that tonight.
Brooklyn Marshall, Olivet Nazarene for Metamora, McKendree for Washington's Georgia Duncan. We're going to see a lot of terrific players tonight. We'll take a quick break and go up to the booth, and we'll also see how this JV game wraps up behind us. It's fun to watch the end of that one, but we'll go up to the booth after this. You're watching Clutch Sports Media's live coverage of Mid-Illini Conference basketball. And what an atmosphere it is inside Washington High School's Torrey Gym. The Metamora Redbirds and Washington Panthers going at it. Whatever is at stake, Gavin, Mid-Illini Conference title, share, or otherwise, you don't have to work too hard to hype this matchup up. These two schools hate each other. The student sections for both teams have come out in droves. Let's play some basketball on a Tuesday night.
Oh, absolutely, Joey. I think that with how good both.
As we work through a little bit of a technical issue there with Gavin's microphone, folks, apologize there. But as Gavin was saying, when these two teams get together, these are two schools that love to hate each other. Metamora and Washington, they're going to go at it on the boys' side on Friday night. Whenever these two teams do get together, it's so closely contested. You never know what you're going to get, but you do know that the score is going to be close. To that extent, I guess you do know what you're going to get, and you know you're going to see some good basketball. Gavin, do we have you now?
Let's see if we got me. I think we got me now.
Yeah, I can hear you. You're good.
Perfect. Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Pep band's rocking, student section's rocking. We're ready for a fun basketball matchup.
National anthem is upon us. We'll come out of that with our keys to the game and get you ready for Metamora and Washington playing tonight for at least a share of the Mid-Illini Conference title on Washington's senior night. Glad you're with us on ClutchSportsIL.com. terrific rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner, and we're ready to go. Glad you're with us on Clutch Sports Media tonight. It's the Metamora Redbirds and Washington Panthers going at it. As we've mentioned a couple times, a share of the Mid-Illini Conference title is on the line. Two teams that have lost a combined 8 games against 44 wins. It's going to take a lot to win tonight, Gavin. Let's take a look at our keys to victory.
Well, we do have some keys for both of these teams. I think you look at Metamora, they've got some size for sure. Of course, you know, they're going up with a team that also has some size, but if they can control the painted area, that's where their bread and butter is. I've seen them play a few times this year, and when they've had the most success, they're scoring from inside. On the other side of things, Washington, you know, they've got people that can do it inside and out, but if they can shoot from the mid-range, they can kind of control that in-between area, they're going to have a lot of success tonight.
Washington loves that mid-range jump shot. They've employed it a couple of times this season, to say the very least. Two teams with fun styles of basketball to watch, and we are ready to roll. Starting lineups being introduced right now. First for the visiting Metamora Redbirds, 22-3 on the season, 11-2 in Mid-Illini Conference play. This is a Metamora team enjoying one of the best seasons it has ever had, and they have high ambitions of advancing far into the IHSA state tournament, and they line up like this. Katie Lalamandir, Alyssa Russell, Kayla Pasha, Katie Ramage, and Brooklyn Marshall. Gavin, you look at this Metamora team, Kayla Pasha and Katie Ramage, probably the two that stand out the most.
They do, but once again, as I mentioned in the open, they have players up and down the roster that are making a difference. I've seen a few games where Brooklyn Marshall has come in and been a big player for the Redbirds, and several others. It's really a nightly thing, but they've got a lot of players that can step up and do it.
And they are led by the first-year head coach, Kyle Wyanoff. And the Washington Panthers being introduced right now. Making her way through the tunnel is Carly Vaughn, but the entire Panthers starting lineup: Claire Mcdougall, Georgia Duncan, Lucy Wilson, the aforementioned Vaughn, and Addie Kimler, coached by the longtime head coach of the Panthers, Kim Barth. Panthers 22-5, 11-2, and the same things we said for Metamora a moment ago, also true for Washington. This is a Panthers team in the midst of a program renaissance. Good year last year, probably even a little better this year, and this team also has those same ambitions when the IHSA playoffs start up next week.
Both of these teams can go very far. They're a team that's going to compete with anybody, best in the state or, you know, even a dark horse team. They're very well coached. You know, there's a lot of good history between both of these teams. And, you know, one thing to know about Washington, they don't have a ton of players on the actual varsity roster. They have a few JV players that come up, but all 10 players on this varsity roster play significant minutes, and a lot of them will be coming back next year.
When they came out on the floor for the start of warm-ups, they had just 8 players dressed. 2 more came in from the JV game that went into overtime. We mentioned it at the top of the show, and it ended in a 35-30 Washington win. Good way to start things out, and Washington starts things out with possession tonight. Glad you're with us. Joey Wright and Gavin Russell, Larry Larson, Jonathan Michael, and Josh Schwam, the rest of our crew. Panthers moving the ball around, opening possession. It's Lucy Wilson. And now it's the Bradley commit, Claire Mcdougall. A couple of Bradley coaches in the house tonight. Head coach in the house as well as, as Metamora moves it ahead. Andrea Gorski and her staff coming in there, Gavin. Something caught my eye there during that last possession, but Andrea Gorski and her staff here to watch Claire Mcdougall, and free throws coming from the Northern Illinois commit in Katie Ramage to start things off for the Redbirds.
Multi-sport athlete, as we've mentioned on a few of our broadcasts. We saw the Metamora Redbirds in softball season, and she was a big part of their softball team, will continue to be, but equally as big on the basketball court. And saw in that first possession right there, a key to the game was get it inside, get it in the paint. One of the things they can do is get fouled and go to the stripe, successfully making some free throws early on.
Not afraid to get to the line is Ramage. She is only a junior, as is Claire Mcdougall, who we talked about on that first possession. So a lot of young talent. We're excited to see Ramage on the softball diamond later this spring. Panthers down early. Kicked out to Lucy Wilson, and Wilson will drive, floating one up. Didn't get the roll, and a foul, our second foul of the game, and the first against Metamora.
One of the big storylines we always talk about is the foul situation, and sometimes you can tell early on what the referees are going to set the tone as for the foul game. You know, I think usually the Mid-Illini, they let them play a little bit, but a couple of quick fouls, we'll see if that changes tonight.
Fading away, Addie Kimmler can't get that to go. Great crowd on hand here at the Raymond Artori Gym. Metamora has traveled well. See if the Redbirds can go ahead by 2 possessions. Deep 2 off the mark from Katie Lalamandir. Lalamandir, a clutch scorer. Washington trying to answer. Carly Vaughn only caught the backboard there, and the Redbirds will run it. Fed down low to Pasha. Mcdougall hauls in the rebound, and she'll push it ahead. Mcdougall contested by Lalamandir, swimming through traffic and scoring, and that's what Claire Mcdougall brings to the table.
That's a D1 commit right there, end to end, coast to coast. Slides right in for the layup. Nice job from the junior Mcdougall.
Making it happen. Bradley University not all that far from Washington, about 20 minutes, a couple different ways to get there, none of them all that long. Pasha goes over, finds Alyssa Russell. Russell guarded by Vaughn. And now it's Katie Ramage. Talked a lot about her, but Kayla Pasha brings a lot to the table as well. Turnover that time, and Vaughn will push ahead. And now down low, Addie Kimmler, nice move. Better finish, and the crowd likes that a lot.
Sweet spin move from Addie Kimmler. She's a very underrated piece to this team and offering a whole lot early in this game.
These two teams have found their stride up and down the lineup. Panthers 22-5 this year, Redbirds 22-3. Pending the score of the Morton Limestone game, that'll determine what happens in the bigger picture of the Mid-Illini Conference. If Morton wins, the winner of this one clinches a share. If Limestone wins, our winner here tonight clinches it outright. Turnover, and Metamora will take over.
Claire Mcdougall showing off tonight, though. She's got the committed teams coaches in the house, and big coast-to-coast play for a score, and, of course, a block right there. She's looking to make some things happen tonight.
Lalamandir pushes through traffic a little short there, and some high-level coaches in the house tonight, but Gavin, this is an atmosphere where it doesn't matter who you are. If you're the top player on one of these teams or the last off the bench, you know, you want to come in and make an impact, because this is as energetic a crowd as we've seen this season, period.
Yeah, I think the only thing that could rival it was both of these schools in the boys matchup a few weeks ago. These two schools, no matter the sport, I mean, it's just high level.
Foul called there, and Kimmler got fouled. And the boys teams for both these schools going at it again on Friday night at Metamora. We'll be in the house for that one, so mark your calendars and join us on Friday. Georgia Duncan will inbound, and here's Mcdougall. Haven't talked a lot about Duncan thus far. She is one of 2 Panthers seniors tonight, celebrating her senior night. The other, Lucy Wilson. So the Panthers stocked with young talent. Duncan, key piece of the offense, watches as the pass goes over to Wilson. Wilson guarded by Lalamandir, gets it back, drives on Lalamandir, doesn't get the bounce, and the rebound brought in by Lalamandir. She'll push ahead. And getting in to disrupt that pass, the senior in Wilson plays the passing lanes, tips it out of bounds. It'll stay with Metamora, and we have our first subs tonight. Maddie McGinnis is in for Washington. Metamora also making a sub. Didn't catch who came in, but Brooklyn Marshall came out.
Both teams like to play in the transition. We've seen that very fast, end to end.
Deep 2 on the way for the Redbirds, a little bit short. Rebound brought in by the player who just came in, Olivia Vaughn. And a 3 from the corner from Vaughn, just a little bit short, out of bounds off of Wilson. That's the second play in about a minute in which she has tipped it out.
Yeah, Metamora, though, they're trying to shoot from the outside more, so I don't think that that's necessarily totally their game. They have players that can shoot it, but they like getting to the inside. Kind of interesting to change the offensive game plan early on.
Wilson gets in there and forces the steal, draws a foul, and that'll be Lalamandir on the foul. And by the way, the player who came in for Metamora, not Olivia Vaughn, but rather Elena Redgate. Vaughn, the freshman, but Redgate, the senior, who has made a big impact this season, averaging just north of 5 points per game. 4-2 Washington at our first break. We'll take a quick pause and come back after this word from Uftring.
Upgrade to four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive during Uftring's Traction for All sales event. With new SUVs and trucks in stock and inbound, plus fresh trades and pre-owned for every budget. Reduce the slide in your ride during the Traction for All sales event at every Uftring Auto Group dealer.
Glad you're with us on ClutchSportsIsle.com tonight. Our sponsors include Jake Weston State Farm in Washington, Illinois. For all your insurance needs, visit JakeWestonInsurance.com or give them a call at 309-444-4441. And by Kep's Sports Bar and Grill in Washington. Great atmosphere, superb food. 313 Muller Road in Washington, or give them a call, 309-444-1974. Thanks to Kep's and Jake Weston State Farm for being a part of our coverage tonight. Washington leading Metamora 4-2 at our first masked timeout. 3:48 left in the first quarter. Gavin, we've seen a lot of action, not a lot of scoring in the opening 4 minutes.
I think both these teams have had a few looks. They haven't necessarily converted, as again, it's only a 4-2 game, but both of these teams will settle in, but they're also playing very well defensively, so got to give a lot to both of these defenses for coming out and setting a tone early on.
See if Bradley's Claire Mcdougall can break that press. Bradley commit Claire Mcdougall, I should say. Panthers junior enjoying a tremendous junior campaign. Here's Redgate stepping back for Metamora. Doesn't have it, but the rebound to Ramage, and she traveled. And Washington gets a break.
Wow, I thought she had the foul there. The student section wanted a travel on the prior shot by Elena Redgate. Didn't get it that time, but the second time, I guess, is a charm, Joey.
And the Panthers have a chance to build on a 2-point lead. Pretty clean game so far. We've not seen a ton of fouls, just 4 in the opening 4.5 minutes. Metamora with 3, Washington with 1. Mcdougall guarded by Redgate. Kicks it out. McGinnis passes up 3 and drives. Had a lane until Kayla Pasha stepped up with the block.
There's that length from Metamora. A couple of players on Washington can rival that, but Metamora just has so much length. They're great at shot blocking, great at contesting inside shots, just like that one right there.
McGinnis now guarded by Pasha. Pasha, not a player you want to mess with. Came into this one averaging just a little bit north of 12 points per game for Metamora. Adds a lot to the defensive side of the ball as well. Mcdougall driving. Redgate draws that assignment. Now Mcdougall contested well by Alyssa Russell. And the Panthers kick it back out. Here's Wilson. Wilson guarded by Lala Mandir. Shades over to Maddie McGinnis. Now driving is Vaughn. Off the back attachment. Mcdougall goes up and has a chance for one more.
That's a tough break for Metamora because that just about that entire possession, it was lockdown defense. Just couldn't get the board, and see how big offensive boards can be, Joey. I mean, that can win you a game sometimes if you get enough of them. Nice job there from Claire Mcdougall being patient. They moved the ball around well. Eventually something's bound is good to happen. Got the rebound, arm, and the score.
See if she can complete the and one. She does. Claire Mcdougall, the last time these teams played, had 7 points. And an offensive foul there against Metamora, and Washington really firing on all cylinders.
They'll move down the floor here, but the defense has been good for both teams. Again, Washington kind of caught a break getting that offensive rebound in the three-point play, but defense really being the primary factor early in this game.
Duncan driving and lost it. Ramage with the steal. And the Redbirds will kick it back up top. So they center it up and slow things down a little here. 2 minutes left to play in the first frame. Alala Mandir. Oh, and an errant pass there from Ramage to nobody. And the Redbirds offense just not quite on the same page there.
Yeah, it's tough to come into an environment like this and you think, how much of an effect does that really have? I think definitely being in the opponent's gym, being a little unsettled early on, showing its effects, but Metamora can rein it in and get right back into this game very quickly.
whatever venue in this series, home court advantage so crucial, whether here at the Torrey Gym in Washington or the Tepke Gym in Metamora. Mcdougall crossing it over, 3 on the way from Vaughn. A little bit too strong. Rebound falls to Georgia Duncan. Duncan switches to the other block and drops it down.
2 straight possessions, 2 offensive rebounds, and 2 scores. Metamora's going to take a timeout. They need to readjust. Slow start offensively and have not been able to do quite enough defensively to hold off the Panthers.
Panthers have increased their lead to 7 points, 9-2, minute 18 left in the first quarter. But don't count out the Redbirds yet, folks. First meeting was close in Metamora on January 4th. Washington got the job done that night, 33-32, one of the Redbirds' 3 losses this season. And we saw that in the JV game, too, as you get a look at Washington head coach Kim Barth there. Back to the bench and now calls out some assignments from the bench. But we saw that in the JV game, Gavin, where, you know, it was a big lead for Metamora. I believe it was 25-11 at one point, and the Panthers, from that point onwards, didn't give up many points, gave up but 5 points the rest of the game, came back and won it.
Yeah, defense can do a lot, and there's big defense right there.
And Mcdougall drives. And that'll be an offensive foul against Mcdougall. Mcdougall's first foul, and a bit of a late call, Gavin, but probably the right one.
Yeah, I could even see from the vantage point with a couple of players blocking the view, there was definitely a little bit of an arm extension there. I think definitely the right call. Not one the student section's going to be happy with, but tough break there for Washington. But Claire Mcdougall's been in the middle of everything. Steals, blocks, and scoring. She can do it all.
That she has, and she gets her first break now as she checks out. But Mcdougall leading the way, has 5 of the Panthers' 9 points. Ramage spins and scores. Katie Ramage enjoying a nice evening thus far. She's up to 4 points, has all of Metamora's points. And she's been that playmaker when they need one.
She seemed to be in the middle of everything tonight, getting rebounds, moving the ball around, and doing all the scoring so far for the Redbirds.
Georgia Duncan has the ball in hand. Washington has 15 seconds left. Duncan will drive, and a hand check called there on Alyssa Russell. It's going to be Metamora's 5th foul. Washington will inbound. Fouls on the floor, and Gavin, I was going to ask you there, does Washington hold for the last shot? But then Georgia Duncan set things in motion.
Well, that's what I thought. I thought maybe they could hold for the last shot, and I was a little surprised that she was trying to drive inside. Of course, got the foul, and 12.4 left on the clock. But, yeah, definitely hold for the last shot. Already have a nice lead. Try to extend it on the final play.
Here's Vaughn to Duncan. Duncan drives. Doesn't get the roll. Loose rebound, and Metamora can hoist something up. Buzzer sounds, and Lala Mandir had a little contact there. Looked like a clean block, and that is how the first quarter will end. Washington ahead by 5.
Boy, it was a defensive battle in the first quarter. Both teams making plays on both sides of the ball, but Washington had a couple of three-point play opportunities, and Claire Mcdougall doing a lot in that first quarter.
Take a quick break to thank our sponsors, Jake Weston, State Farm in Washington, Illinois. For all your insurance needs, visit JakeWestonInsurance.com or call 309-444-4441. Jake Weston, State Farm in Washington. And by Kep's Sports Bar and Grill. Great atmosphere, superb food at 313 Muller Road in Washington. Great family-oriented establishment. 309-444-1974. Thank you to Kep's and Jake Weston State Farm for their support, and Jake Weston's website and phone number on your screen all evening long. 5-point lead for Washington. Second quarter upon us. Gavin, what we said coming out of the first quarter mask timeout is largely still true. We've seen a lot of action, not a lot of scoring.
No, not a lot of scoring, and the JV game, as you mentioned, a lot of similarities. 35-30 was the final of that one. So I don't expect to see a super high-scoring matchup tonight, but that's because both these teams play very sound on defense. They make a lot of big plays defensively, hence there won't be a whole lot of shots falling. That makes for good basketball, though.
13 combined points thus far, 55 combined points in these two teams' last meeting. Down low, going up again is Marshall, and she finally drops it down. And Brooklyn Marshall, the Olivet Nazarene commit, the senior, averages just about 6 points a game, but another one of those players, Gavin, that can just do so much. Big basket there.
One of the taller players on the court, no matter the matchup, she offers a lot, and inside, and got the shot to go.
Mcdougall, tough shot. Couldn't just in time to knock that down. Here's Kimler. Kimler back now to Vaughn, and it's back to Kimler. Kimler, a little hesitation, looking for Georgia Duncan. Rooting it loose was Izzy Vandeschraff, first time we've called her name tonight. And Ramage will attempt a deep two, pardon me. Couldn't decide if it wanted to go or not, and it decides not to.
Tough break right there for Ramage. Kind of rushed the shot, though. They got a good open look.
McGinnis for three for Washington. You saw the arc on that one. Couldn't get it to fall, but a nice offensive rebound for Addie Kimler.
Washington is really controlling the rebound game right now. They have a hefty advantage in that.
Best way to build a lead is with offensive rebounds and second chance points, and Washington keeps its chance at a second chance point alive there. Out of bounds. As Mcdougall tried to drive, and now Vaughn will go to the bench, and Lucy Wilson back in for the Panthers. Duncan inbounds. It's Kimler. Kimler goes to work, steps through, can't go underneath. Rebound brought in by Vandeschraff, and it's Lala Mandir running the point. Nice find to Brooklyn Marshall, and it's a one-point game.
Brooklyn Marshall having a big impact in the second quarter. She's got half the Redbirds' points right now, and all the points here in the second frame.
She's brought up the back half of the Redbirds scoring, and she has been responsible for what is a 4-0 run for the Redbirds in the last minute 57. Quick moving second quarter. Duncan finds McGinnis, and back to Duncan. Panthers swinging around. Duncan guarded by Vandeschraff. Drives. Nice finds. And McGinnis can't finish. Good pass from Duncan. McGinnis just didn't get the roll. Here's Lala Mandir. Gets it back. And coming out on the defensive look is, Lucy Wilson for Washington. Pesha goes over. Vandeschraff will drive, looking for Pesha. Pesha can't handle it. Gets it back to Vandeschraff. And now it's Pesha who gets it back. Ramage trying to drive on Georgia Duncan. Gets it back to Pesha. And Lala Mandir has her pass swatted away. Panthers trying to get out in front. Mcdougall will have to slow it down. Pops it out to Duncan for a three. Falls in, and it bounced probably off everything it could have. Hit the rim, hit the backboard, and then through the net.
Metamora, the bench is incensed right now, but I don't think it hit the support.
Redbirds trying to answer, but it's a miss from Marshall. Wilson the rebound, and the Panthers picking up the pace. Vandeschraff trying to guard Duncan, and it was oh so close as to whether that three hit the support, but I'm with you, it looked like the right call. Duncan doesn't have another one, but she follows her shot and gets the rebound.
Once again, there's the offensive rebounds, extra opportunities. Now Claire Mcdougall gets to go to work.
Mcdougall trying to go to work on Marshall, spins and scores. Bank is open, and Claire Mcdougall's been tough to stop tonight, has 7 points.
Slow start offensively in the second quarter for Washington, but they're picking it up now.
Ramage can't respond, would have made it a 4-point game. Mcdougall spins again, falls down. And I believe she traveled there, Gavin. I was looking at the trailing referee, but all indications were that was a travel. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That was a travel, Joe. You got that one right. And good defense, pressuring Mcdougall. Couldn't get to go.
And it takes us to our second quarter mask timeout. Washington opens up a 6-point lead, 3:55 to play in the second quarter. We'll be back after this.
It's Uftring's Traction for All sales event with the four-wheel and all-wheel drive trucks and SUVs you need for winter driving. Interest rates are at record lows and trade values are at historic highs. Plus, changes to the trade tax law means you'll get your full tax credit at every Uftring Auto Group dealer.
Welcome back to Washington, where our coverage tonight is brought to you by Jake Weston State Farm in Washington, Illinois. For all your insurance needs, visit jakewestoninsurance.com or call 309-444-4441. Jake Weston State Farm in Washington. And by Kep's Sports Bar and Grill in Washington. Great atmosphere, superb food, family-oriented establishment. 313 Muller Road in Washington. Give them a call at 309-444-1974. Thanks to Kep's and Jake Weston State Farm for their support tonight. 3:55 left to play in the first half. Washington 14, Metamora 8. And Metamora will inbound. And Gavin, the pace picked up significantly in the last 2 minutes or so.
It certainly has. Both these teams like to play in transition a lot, though. So you get a steal, get a rebound off a miss. Both teams like to move it down the floor quickly.
As we see there, nearly a great putback from Pesha, but she couldn't get it to go. And Washington runs it. And one. Count the basket for Carly Vaughn. And
wow.
That's that tempo we talked about. Go ahead.
Well, what a finish there from Carly Vaughn, but got to give a lot of credit to the pass from Claire Mcdougall. Kind of one-handed it strike up to Vaughn. She saw a lane to the hoop, took it, got the foul, and won. Here comes that offense. It's so dangerous for the Panthers.
Lead now 8. They've doubled the Redbirds up. Take that with a grain of salt. Still well within range, and we're still in the early stages of this one, but Washington playing very well here in the middle part of the second quarter. Vaughn to complete the and one, couldn't do it. But the rebound brought in by Mcdougall, and a three from Vaughn falls. 5-point run for Vaughn.
And yet another timeout here from Metamora. What a big time effort right there. The offensive rebound and the three.
3 for Carly Vaughn, followed up the 2 with some contact down low, and she has matched her output already in these two teams' last battle on January 4th. She finished with 5 points then, has 5 points now, and Vaughn just a small part of what's working for Washington, Gavin. Metamora started this quarter out very strong. Katie Ramage, a couple quick points when the second frame started, but then Washington has found an extra gear.
They really have. I mean, being on the home floor, definitely want to impress the home crowd, play for the home team, but yeah, they really have kicked it into high gear in these last few possessions, especially. They're really, playing with a lot of aggressiveness. They're not slowing down. They want to play quickly. As you mentioned, the pace of play really kicked up lately in the last few minutes. They want to just keep the foot on the gas pedal. Leave nothing to chance and keep it going. Washington has done a fantastic job of getting out to a big 11-point lead, but you got to think Metamora's got plenty left in the tank, and they're going to try to start showing it in a hurry.
This is a Metamora team ranked 9th in the state. The most recent AP 3A poll, Washington received some votes, but this is a Metamora team that has played at a very high level all season long, as have the Panthers, and they won't bow out of this one easily. Pesha goes to work down low, and she'll look to convert an and one of her own.
And that is a big-time play for 2 reasons. Number one, you get the and one opportunity with the basket, but that's Claire Mcdougall's second foul, and while that's not maybe technically overly concerning, one of Washington's best players, foul's starting to get up there a little bit. Certainly don't want her in foul trouble, especially late in this game.
And Gavin, you've got to think that Washington and Kim Barth on that sideline may be content to leave her out there with 2, but if she picks up a third before halftime, it could get interesting to watch. Panthers turn it over there. And it's a 9-point game after the miss from Pesha at the free throw line. Tipped away down low. Ramage brings in the rebound. Redbirds along the perimeter here now driving, and back to Ramage. Her shot And a foul from Mcdougall. That's going to be her third.
That is tough, and I think if it is on Mcdougall, she's going to have to sit down. And it is on Mcdougall, so good call. 3 fouls, and she'll be sitting down for a while. That is a big-time turn of events for Metamora.
2 big free throws coming for Ramage. Strong on the first, and that will be likely all we see from Claire Mcdougall here for the next couple of minutes. Maddie McGinnis comes in. And that's what you love about basketball, right? You know, no 2 games are the same. You're going to have some storylines unfolding within the game, and I know a lot of our viewers and a lot of those here, you know, no one likes to see foul fests, but I don't mind it when you get some of the star players in foul trouble and the coaches have to adjust their lineups around and figure out the puzzle. 3 on the way off for Washington. Rebound brought in by Wilson, and McGinnis will drive. McGinnis blocked by Pesha, and Pesha is able to get to it.
Heads up play right there from Pesha and got her own rebound.
Stepping through was Washington, and Vandeschraff couldn't score. Contact, no call, but a finish from Vaughn.
Carly Vaughn has been finishing around the rim quite a bit tonight, and she's doing an excellent job moving the ball up the floor. One of the biggest parts to the Washington lead right now.
She has 7 points. Panthers lead by 10. 3 on the way would be big for the Redbirds. Washington got one of those to fall earlier, but Redgate couldn't get it to tap around and down. And Duncan finding Kimler. She'll go to work. Addie Kimler stepping back and scoring. And Washington can do no wrong on offense in the second quarter.
That was a shot from the paint, but kind of in that mid-range area, I guess if you want to say that. Nice turnaround shot. That's where Washington gets quite a few of their points.
12-point lead, Washington's largest tonight. Up and under, big response from Izzy Vandeschraff, the sophomore.
They're going to need a few more plays like that before the quarter's in. Certainly want to try to get this one down to double digits before we head into the halftime locker room.
Just south of 60 seconds left to play in the half. Loose ball, Vandeschraff gets to it. And this is a big possession for Metamora, trying to cut it back to single digits. Vandeschraff entered this one averaging 3.5 points per game. It goes over to Ramage, and Ramage finds Kayla Pesha. 3 on the way from Ramage, too strong. There for the rebound is Lucy Wilson, and now Maddie McGinnis slows it down, kicks it to Duncan. Back to McGinnis. 20 seconds left in the first half. Duncan has it. Now Carly Vaughn. Vaughn to McGinnis, to Duncan. Duncan, a senior, in trouble, steal, and Metamora has 7 seconds, and they'll be able to run a set. They'll inbound with 6 3/10 to play.
Nice steal right there, and this is a big opportunity. You're down 10 right now. Again, plenty of time left, a whole nother half to play, and 10 points is not an impossible comeback, rather. But it would sure be nice if you're down only 8 or 7 by the time the buzzer sounds.
There's definitely a mental aspect to that. 3 seconds left. Deep 3 on the way from Redgate, falls! Beats the first half buzzer. 7-point game going into the break.
7-point deficit is a lot better than 10, and right there, big time heads up play from Elena Redgate. I don't think they knew initially how much time was left, but came out and made a dagger of a 3. Looks like from the volleyball line.
That was deep. Redgate did a terrific job of sticking with it. And that changes things completely going into the halftime locker room. So they put 15 minutes on the clock for the halftime break. A little extra time maybe to think about it tonight.
Yeah, interesting, but this is a big game, so perhaps a nice time to talk things over for a little bit longer.
That's exactly right. What a game we have. I know, Gavin, it's a 7-point game. And it's far from final at halftime. A 23-16 lead for Washington. That's our halftime score. Far from final. What a game we've seen. I know Washington's up by 7. but Metamora is hanging in there. You know, they've made some plays, cut it to 1 point early in the second half before Washington went on a little run. Kind of narrowed that gap here going into the third quarter. I mean, this second half is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
It certainly is, and I think that three from Elena Redgate to end out the half is big for a couple of reasons. You know, you look at cutting that deficit to just 7, but then you also look, Metamora has struggled from shooting from the outside, from 3-point, from deep mid-range, so kind of maybe unlock that, maybe unlock a little confidence to shoot from outside, and just take a big confidence boost in the locker room. You know, this game is well within reach. We've got a good one, folks, tonight. Hope you stick with us for the entirety of this matchup.
Don't go anywhere. This is going to be a great one until the very end. We're going to step aside real quick for the halftime break. You see a countdown to the second half, top left of your screen, so don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a few minutes to get you ready for the second half. Washington 23, Metamora 16 at the break. Welcome back to Washington's Raymond R. Torrey Gymnasium. We are halfway through a heavyweight battle for at least a share of the Mid-Illini Conference title. Washington leading Metamora 23-16 at halftime. And Gavin, there's a lot to unpack from that first half. You know, you look at Washington, 7 points from Claire Mcdougall and Carly Vaughn. You look at Metamora, 5 points from Katie Ramage. They were big ones. And then you look at the last play of the first half, a huge three from Elena Redgate that beat the buzzer to make it a 7-point game. Those are some numbers. Take us behind the numbers. What did you see from the first half?
Well, defense, I think, was definitely a key for both these teams. 23-16 is not overly high scoring, maybe a little lower than what both these teams will usually produce offensively. But defense was a big key. There were quite a few steals. There were blocks. A lot of transition play for both of these teams. So I think defense is a big takeaway from that first half. But another big takeaway, tuned in later with us, Claire Mcdougall, 3 fouls, picked up a second one, and quickly after picked up her third. She's been having a big night, but can't do much if you're in foul trouble. So we'll see if that plays a factor in this second half. But Metamora, starting to find that consistency. Washington's gone on their spurts, and they hold the lead right now. Overall, it's an entertaining first half, and I'd expect nothing different here in half number 2.
And let's dive into that Claire Mcdougall storyline just a little bit deeper. Claire Mcdougall, Washington junior, Bradley commit, has the entire Bradley coaching staff here to watch her. We're told anyways. We have seen Bradley head coach Andrea Gorski here, and I've not spotted any other assistants, but we're told that they were planning on making the trip out here tonight. So, you know, she's got some pressure, got some big-time eyeballs looking at her tonight, and 3 fouls. At what point is Kim Barth, Washington's head coach, going to look to put her back? I'll answer that question. She's on the floor and ready to start the third quarter.
Yeah, I think there could be a case made for, either keeping her on the bench to start out or to also, put her out here, and she's going to start the half. I think in a big game like this, you tell her maybe just let up off the aggressiveness a little bit when it comes to, if they're inside, you may not want to take a hack at the ball unless you got a clean look at it. Just try to play a little more disciplined. Otherwise, she's going to make some big plays.
Although does commit a turnover there on the inbound pass 2 seconds into the third quarter. Got the tap back and had her foot on the line. She did finish the first meeting between these teams this year with 4 fouls. So we'll keep an eye on that. Had 7 points that night, a 33-32 win for Washington on January 4th. Just underway in the third quarter, and there is Claire Mcdougall getting in there, forcing a steal and driving on Katie Ramage. Leaves it a little bit short, out of bounds. Mcdougall keeps it in, but it's intercepted by Kayla Pasha. Kayla Pasha, commit to Parkland College. She'll play volleyball there, and it's Brooklyn Marshall on the traveling violation there. She is the only player on Metamora's team currently committed to play basketball at the next level for Olivet Nazarene.
Brooklyn Marshall had a few nice baskets in the first half. She's not the biggest scorer necessarily for the Metamora Redbirds on a nightly basis, but she's been pretty involved tonight, especially in the paint.
Marshall's been involved in a lot of plays. 5 on the floor real quick, starting with the Panthers. Ball in the hands of Lucy Wilson. She's joined by Claire Mcdougall, Maddie McGinnis, Georgia Duncan, and Carly Vaughn. Pardon me. That's the second time tonight, Gavin. My mind has just gone blank, but lighting up the scoreboard, not going blank, is Georgia Duncan with the 2.
Well, it's hard to focus when you've got a really good basketball game going on. Hard to think about all the names and numbers. Just a lot of high talent going at it.
I appreciate you covering for me. Kayla Pasha's going to the line for 2 points, and that's 4 fouls on Claire Mcdougall, keeping an eye on that.
Yeah, that's a tough draw, and, not even a minute and a half into the quarter. And the Metamora faithful like that, I would imagine she'd be sitting for probably at least the rest of the quarter and then some.
First free throw misses, and she's already on her way back to the bench. Addie Kimmler comes in, and that's going to be big. Metamora trying to erase this 7-point deficit. Talked a lot about Claire Mcdougall, but these teams run deep. That'll be tough with her on the bench, though, for the Panthers. And Metamora, a stacked roster and an 8-point deficit. And the 5 on the floor for Metamora, by the way. Meant to get to that a moment ago. It's Kayla Pesha joined by Katie Lalamandir, Brooklyn Marshall, Katie Ramage, and Alyssa Russell, the 5 for the Redbirds. Back on defense now. Here's Duncan for Washington. And Kimler, who started for the Panthers, did not start the second half. And the Metamora crowd getting loud. 8-point game, still could go either way. This one's not going to be decided until the final buzzer sounds. Duncan, too strong on the 3. Marshall the rebound. And Ramage will start this possession off for Metamora. She drives, splits through, and scores. And Katie Ramage is going to be a player we're going to see a lot of for Metamora here in the second half.
Starts and finishes the possession with a big score. Metamora is feeling it right now. They are certainly into this game despite the deficit.
Metamora has been able to count on about 9 points per game from Ramage this year. Driving now for Washington, Vaughn. Vaughn looking for Kimler, knocked out of bounds, and Metamora here has a chance to start stringing some baskets together.
Big stop right there, making life difficult on the passes. Nice job and a big chance, as you mentioned, string some scores together. Get this one even closer.
6 points, the Redbirds' deficit now. That's as slim as it's been in some time. They'll have to wait to make it any narrower here. Washington, the turnover, 3 on the way from McGinnis falls. A high arcing 3 puts Washington back ahead by 9.
Big time shot right there. Again, Washington has players up and down this roster that can step up. Claire Mcdougall's out. Next person up, get in there.
Marshall, a free throw, wide left. And a rebound brought in by Lalamandir and a foul. A jump ball, pardon me, and that's the first jump ball we've seen tonight. Stays with Metamora. There's Lalamandir. She runs to the corner, but the pass to the wing and Pesha. Now back to the corner and Alyssa Russell. Haven't called Russell's name a ton tonight. Metamora counts on her for about 5 points per game on average. It's Marshall down low, not finding anything. And Lalamandir had it stolen away, but a foul called, and that'll be the second foul of the half against Washington.
Nice job there from Washington on the defense. End up getting the steal and getting fouled. Not a ton of fouls in this game, Joey. I don't think either team reached the bonus or shot bonus free throws in the last half. But again, the fouls are there for a reason. Sometimes can't let everything slide, and earned a good foul right there.
It has been a largely clean game, Gavin, outside of that storyline with Mcdougall that we've talked about so much. She has 4 fouls for Washington, but no other Panther has more than 1 foul, and only 2 players on the floor for Washington have a foul right now. Carly Vaughn is not one of them, but she does have 10 points to her name. Another big 3.
She's turning it up, especially from distance. Watch out for Carly Vaughn. And a timeout for Metamora. They're burning through the timeouts. Washington's really keeping that foot on the gas pedal.
First-year Redbirds coach Kyle Wyanoth wants a timeout. It comes as Washington has opened up a 12-point lead, 31-19 to play in the third quarter. The Orange Crush with a blackout theme tonight. They've turned out in droves, and they have to like what they've seen so far. Great shot there, our camera operator tonight, Jonathan Michael. Larry Larson behind our computer is queuing up a word from Uftring. We'll take a quick break and come back after this.
It's Uftring's Traction for All sales event with new SUVs and trucks in stock and inbound with 4-wheel and all-wheel drive. For better winter traction, take immediate action. Reduce the slide in your ride during the Traction for All sales event at every Uftring Auto Group dealer.
Mid-Illini Conference Girls Basketball on ClutchSportsIsle.com is brought to you tonight by Kep's Sports Bar and Grill in Washington. Great atmosphere, superb food. 313 Muller Road in Washington, or give them a call at 309-444-1974. Might have to swing by there after this one. And we might pass by Jake Weston's office on the way. JakeWestonInsurance.com, 309-444-5600. 888-888-4441 or JakeWestonInsurance.com. And as I think about that, we'd have to go out of our way to pass by his office, but a nice thought. Jake Weston's website and phone number on the bottom of your screen all evening long. And I also want to thank Keps for being a part of our coverage tonight.
Keps does sound good.
Getting kind of hungry up here.
Absolutely.
Metamora out of the timeout, down 12. And Gavin, they're hungry for points. It seems like anytime they've gone on a little mini run, Washington has been able to open up a larger one. Russell trying to change that off on the three.
Yeah, Washington's done a great job at responding. Metamora's bound to get some points eventually, but Washington not letting this one get too close.
Three on the way from Carly Vaughn. Didn't get anything that time. Metamora will take over, but Vaughn has been very good tonight. 10 points. She leads all scorers in this game with 10 points, does Vaughn.
She's been hitting them from out there. Just a little short on that three, but I think you'd like to continue to take those shots if possible.
Ramage driving, floating one up and scoring. And she's been pretty good when she gets that look, talking about how Vaughn has been good from three, but Ramage has opened up 9 points for Metamora right now. And now Metamora looks like they've found a little momentum.
Here's this run. Can they continue with consistency? That's been the question. You mentioned how Washington has been able to respond to any mini run by Metamora, but can they turn a mini run into a big one? They certainly need that here.
Vandeschraff passing down low to Russell. Russell in trouble, but she's able to find Ramage. Ramage for a free throw. Off the mark. Rebound fought for and brought in by McGinnis. McGinnis looks for Vaughn. Vaughn wanted the three, didn't take it. McGinnis wanted the three, didn't take it. And now it's Kimmler from the mid-range. Going to work and fouled by Marshall.
Patient on offense. You mentioned they had a couple of potential looks, but they looked a little contested, so a nice job to just pump fake right there, move the ball around, and eventually get the player going to the line, shoot two, trying to keep this lead into double digits.
Kimmler at the line for two. Adds to the lead with the first free throw. Elena Redgate coming in for Metamora. Out comes Kayla Patient. Want to remind you what's at stake tonight. A share of the Mid-Illini Conference title at the very least is on the line. If Morton takes down Limestone tonight, the winner of this game shares the MIC title with Morton. If Limestone beats Morton, the winner of this game wins the conference title outright. And we're still awaiting a score update from that Morton-Limestone game. But these two teams entered this one knowing what's at stake, and we're going to know how the Mid-Illini Conference picture looks when this one ends. We were a little late getting started here in Washington tonight, so we do expect that Morton game to be final by the time we leave the air.
Yeah, even a share of the title is nothing to scoff at. I mean, how good the Mid-Illini has been this year. You know, even if there was somehow a three-way tie, not that there's going to be, but if that's how it ended up, you know, that would have been very impressive in its own right, just because how many top teams we have this year. I mean, you think about it, Dunlap is probably the fourth best team in this conference, you know, and they're a high-level program. They've had a few injuries and whatnot, but this is just a high-level basketball program, certainly one of the better in the state. They're definitely going to send a few teams into the IHSA playoffs that have good potential to make a deep run, potentially even go to state and maybe win the whole thing.
That's right. This is, I believe they call it the region of death, this kind of central Illinois area, because there are so many good teams that always have to fight each other in the opening rounds, the postseason. Year in and year out, you know, you'll see a historically good Peoria team mixed in with a historically good Morton team, and, you know, Metamora has fielded some good teams lately, as has Washington. Peoria Notre Dame is a top 5 team in the state as well this year, and, you know, you factor in a Dunlap team that has all sorts of potential as well, some very talented girls on that team. It's going to be really interesting to see how the postseason picture unfolds.
Tough regionals, though. You know, Metamora and Washington both have tough matchups in their regionals. I believe Washington and Metamora play each other in a regional. I could be wrong on that, but they play in the same one nevertheless. Tough matchups early going of the IHSA playoffs.
Metamora right now, the number 9 team in the 3A class. Washington received some votes in that most recent AP poll. And Washington right now up by 11 on the number 9 team in the state. But the Redbirds have drawn within striking distance a few times, just haven't been able to sustain the run. Here's Vaughn looking for Duncan. Vaughn, a junior. Duncan, one of the 2 Panthers celebrating senior night tonight. Vaughn to McGinnis. And the Panthers, Gavin, right now, not a lot of urgency. We've seen them turn up and down the pace.
Yeah, you know, the nice thing is with this lead, they can really control how they want it to go and be patient for good open shots just like that for a big-time 3.
Maddie McGinnis making it happen. She has 6 points, and the Washington lead is as big as it's been tonight.
This might be one of Washington's best 3-point shooting performances. McGinnis and Carly Vaughn both turning it up from outside.
And the Panthers are going to get another opportunity. Panthers looking to complete a season sweep of the Redbirds, won by 1 point in Metamora on January 4th. Pasha will come back in for the Redbirds. Redgate will come out. Although, Gavin, I will say we did see Metamora close out the last minute of the second quarter strong. I would say, you can correct me either way, but I would say they need that spark here before the third quarter buzzer. Got to get something going.
Yeah, they got to continue to get back that momentum. They've lost it a few times, so you got to find a way to get it back. But if you're Washington, just be patient. I think that you can easily hold for the last shot, especially at this point.
35 seconds left to play. It's Vaughn. Handoff behind her to Lucy Wilson. Tough defense there going against Vandeschraff. And now it's Duncan. Just north of 20 seconds left. Panthers looking to hold for the final shot of the third quarter. 14-point lead. Duncan looking for something. She will hoist a shot up that falls short. Kimler tries to keep it in, but Pasha has it. 5 seconds left. Metamora beat the second quarter buzzer. Can't do the same. Hold that thought. Yes, they will. Kayla Pasha steps up and just gets it in front of the third quarter buzzer.
Something about Metamora and buzzer beaters is a big thing tonight, so if this game gets a little closer and this game comes down to the final shot, I think Metamora might feel pretty good if they have the ball.
Kayla Pasha soared in there, proved me wrong, got in there, grabbed the rebound, and scored. Quick aside, Jake West and State Farm, a proud sponsor of tonight's coverage. 309-444-4441, the number. JakeWestinsurance.com, the website for all your insurance needs. Jake Weston in Washington. And by Kep's Sports Bar and Grill, family-oriented atmosphere, superb food as well. Give Kep's a call at 309-444-1974 or stop by at 313 Muller Road in Washington. Kep's Sports Bar and Grill on board tonight, as is Jake Weston State Farm, and the number for Jake Weston and his website on your screen all evening long. So the second quarter winds up playing out much like the third quarter does in terms of the last 10 seconds. Metamora finds a possession and capitalizes on it. And this time Pasha makes it a 12-point game. So Gavin, what does Metamora have to do to get back into this?
Well, they got to be consistent. I think Washington's done a nice job of continuing to change things up on both sides of the ball to keep Metamora a little bit off balance. They got to get a few stops. They got to get a few scores strung together. Of course, they're not going to probably hold Washington to a scoreless fourth quarter. They got to string some stuff together to get yourself within close striking distance.
Overcoming adversity has been a theme all night long here in Torrey Gym. The JV game decided in overtime after Washington posted a big comeback and won 35-30. See if Metamora can overcome what was, at its largest point, a 14-point gap. Ramage for the Redbirds finds Alyssa Russell. And now it's Lala Mandir. Lala Mandir to Marshall, trying to drive on Kimler. Turns around and scores.
Marshall's done a nice job with that length. And a jump ball, heads-up play right there. Lala Mandir coming in and getting the jump ball. So Washington will get it back, but that could have implications later in this game.
They'll redo the inbound there. Lala Mandir hit the deck, trying to guard Lucy Wilson. It's big. Next jump ball arrow favors Metamora. Wilson is able to get the inbound pass. Metamora crowd as loud as they've been in some time. Kimmler off on what would have amounted to a free throw, and now Metamora can make it a single-digit game again. Pesha drives, goes up and scores.
2 baskets in a row for the Redbirds. Now, can you find that consistency? You're down to 8 points. Can you continue to put this together for a big fourth quarter?
Every time this story has started tonight, Washington's been able to end the chapter with a run of their own, and 2 free throws coming up for Vaughn.
Carly Vaughn's been kind of that run buster, if you want to put it like that, all night long. She's hit some big-time three-pointers, some of them even contested, and right there, taking it to the rack, getting fouled, and a chance to put Washington back up by double digits.
Different element to her game than what she has shown tonight. Off on the first free throw, Claire Mcdougall comes back in for Washington with 4 fouls. So we'll keep an eye on that. Number 10 in white lines up alongside Pesha and Ramage for Metamora. That's a strong right side of the lane for both sides. And the free throw falls from Vaughn.
So you gave up the 1 point there, but you can score here again. Still single-digit deficit. Metamora can really start to get that momentum.
We'll see how aggressive Metamora is. See if they look for the 3 or pound it inside. That's been working for them the last couple times down. And a foul. Lucy Wilson got it in there. Almost looked like she was trying to tie that up and gets called for the foul.
Well, any foul from now on with Claire Mcdougall on the floor, I think Washington bench might hold their breath a little bit to make sure it's not on her. Mcdougall again with 4 fouls. Got to keep an eye on that.
Georgia Duncan gets up and nearly came away with the steal on the inbound pass. I will say, Gavin, going back to the last boys game these two teams played, it was right here in this gym a few weeks ago. We were in the house that night. Foul trouble was a theme. Isaac Mapson fouled out for Washington, and that came relatively early in the fourth quarter, but the Panthers were able to overcome that loss. He's one of the stronger players for the Panthers boys team, and although he went down, Panthers scored a comeback win in the last minute. Here's Mcdougall. Over to Duncan for 3. Big if it goes. It's short, but Mcdougall there for the rebound, and she cleans it up.
Mcdougall does just everything. She's everywhere. She gets the rebound. She scores. Really impressive.
Out of bounds. It'll stay with Metamora. But Washington not giving Metamora anything easy down low. Under 6 minutes to play. Metamora needing a basket. And out of bounds. That was last touched by Lala Mandir, and all the credit in the world goes to Lucy Wilson for making that difficult.
Turns the ball over there. I think Metamora's, fans are wanting a foul, but honestly, I think it's a good no call. Made contact with the ball first, and then just had some contact. Both players kind of hit the deck. Unfortunately, the ball hit Metamora player last.
We'll see if Wilson can get anything going for the Panthers offense. Closely contested, and she'll draw a foul from Lala Mandir. And that is the 8th foul we've seen. No, pardon me, the 6th foul we've seen this half. 4th for Metamora, 2nd for Washington. Point there, we've not had a ton of fouls called tonight. It's been a pretty clean game. Driving is Vaughn. 23 on 23, and Washington's 23 wins the battle. Carly Vaughn.
Vaughn's making things happen tonight, stepping up in a big way.
Lead back to 13. Here's Marshall for Metamora, and now Pesha. Feed to Pesha. Kick to Russell. Her 3 on the way. Doesn't catch anything. Rebound Kimmler. Kimmler to Duncan, and Duncan in no hurry. Oh, but the Redbird defense making her work in an over and back.
Again, back and forth we go, though. Of course, it is a big 13-point lead at the moment for Washington. There's still a lot of time left. Over 5 minutes. Metamora needed the ball back, and I think a score here is very crucial.
I would agree. They need to get something going. score a little deceiving. Washington has not run away with this one by any means. Oh, nearly a nice finish from Marshall, and she'll draw a foul. That'll be on the floor. But that was a great job by Brooklyn Marshall of kind of spinning around and wound up creating an open look to the basket where there really shouldn't have been one.
She's been, really hounding Washington in the inside, and of course, Claire Mcdougall not on the floor at the moment, but when she is, they want to take it into her and get the fifth foul rather.
Marshall unable to convert that time. Here's McGinnis in the corner. Claire Mcdougall, by the way, back on the bench for Washington. Brought her back to the bench, still working with 4 fouls, although Washington, by virtue of its 13-point lead, has not had to include her all that much in the game plan here in the second half. She's been on the bench for most of it.
Unforced error from Washington, and Metamora has had that opening. I think their biggest issue has just been consistency of scoring. I think they're definitely getting the stops, forcing the turnovers. Can you put together some scores to effectively get yourself back in this game?
Half the fourth quarter gone by, half the fourth quarter exactly, as we get the whistle for the jump ball, and it'll stay with Metamora. And on the, see if they take the mask timeout here, doesn't look like they will. Yep, well, they will. That is the mask timeout with 4 minutes to play. The last 4 minutes, most crucial we'll see tonight. Washington trying to hang on, Metamora trying to erase a 13-point deficit. We'll see how it all plays out on the other side of this word from Uftring.
Upgrade to 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive during Uftring's Traction for All sales event with new SUVs and trucks in stock and inbound, plus fresh trades and pre-owned for every budget. Reduce the slide in your ride during the Traction for All sales event at every Uftring Auto Group dealer.
Glad you're with us on ClutchSportsIL.com tonight. Tonight's coverage brought to you by Kep's Sports Bar and Grill in Washington. Great atmosphere, superb food. Give them a call today at 309-444-1974 or stop in 313 Muller Road in Washington. And by Jake Weston State Farm in Washington. Visit JakeWestonInsurance.com today or call 309-444-4441 for all your insurance needs. Easy phone number to remember. The website's not too difficult either, and it's on your screen all evening long. Jake Weston State Farm and Kep's. 4 minutes to play. Washington ahead by 13 points. Gavin Washington has been the aggressor tonight, no way around it. Once they kind of built a lead, Morton's had some moments, but Washington has been able to answer with timely baskets, clutch shots, and if they hit their marks, you've got to figure they're in really good shape down the stretch.
They can, but they got to go quickly, and they got to make some things happen sooner than later.
Although Metamora off and running. Big basket that time from Pesha. 9 points for Pesha, and it's an 11-point game. Foul called that time on Redgate. Elena Redgate maybe with the play of the game tonight. I can't think of anything I'd rank above it. That deep three that beat the first half buzzer. It was a big basket in the context of the game, and that would maybe be my candidate for play of the game as Washington takes a 30-second timeout.
Yeah, I mean, not at this, up to this point, I would say it's been the play of the game, but you never know. I mean, down the stretch, maybe we could see something even bigger. Perhaps another buzzer beater if Metamora can continue to cut into it. But I would say for sure up to this point, that was a big play for Metamora.
This one's far from over. Washington up by 11, but one game that is over. The Morton-Limestone game. Morton with a 12-point win over the Limestone Rockets to clinch at least a share, well, not at least a share, to clinch a share of the Mid-Illini Conference girls basketball title. 60-48 the final score of that one. Limestone putting up a good fight. That was a Limestone team that entered tonight having won, I think, 3 of its last 4, if I'm not mistaken. A good Limestone team this year that just falls a little bit short to Morton. And Morton yet again in that Mid-Illini Conference title picture. The winner of this game will share the title with the Potters, and Georgia Duncan wants that to be the Washington Panthers.
She does on senior night, trying to make some big plays, goes right down the lane.
Foul called on the other end. The other senior on the Panthers, Wilson, called for the foul. And that will send Izzy Vandeschraff to the line with 2 big free throws in front of her. And Gavin, I don't know that there's any way around this. Vandeschraff needs to hit these 2. Metamora's got to keep pace with the Panthers at this point.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, basket for basket, but you got to get some stops too.
Off on the first. Not doom and gloom necessarily for Metamora, though, because we have seen a couple times tonight missed free throws can lead to rebounds and baskets. Vandeschraff on the second, makes the second, so no rebound needed.
And Metamora's going to kick up the aggressiveness here. They've been running the last couple minutes the full court press, but they're resorting to the double team. They're trying to pull out all the stops. Can you get string a few buckets together, you get it down to 6 or 8, something like that, we certainly will have a ball game.
They need stops. Duncan, who scored the last time down for Washington, finds Wilson. And now Mcdougall will drive against Marshall, in trouble, threw it right back to Ramage. And Ramage will set up the offense. Trying to drive it all the way herself, rooted away, and Kimler has it for the Panthers. Kicks it back to Vaughn. Vaughn will turn the pace down a little here as we go south of 3 minutes to play. Mcdougall for Washington tries to drive, has a lane, and a foul there as Mcdougall was driving to the basket. And they will whistle that against Marshall. Marshall looked like she threw the elbow there. As that's not a bad foul, as Mcdougall had the drive. Kicked back, and great hustle play from Katie Ramage. Goes outside the door. Was hustling after, but she couldn't keep it in.
She's trying to make it happen tonight. She's been in the middle of a lot of these plays. Katie Ramage has been doing a lot for the Redbirds. She's trying to will them back into this one, down 12. Not an impossible comeback still.
Win for either side marks their 23rd of the year. These teams 44-8 entering tonight if you combine their 2 records. 5 losses for Washington, 3 for Metamora. Metamora, the 9th-ranked team in the most recent IHSA 3A poll. Plays like that might have Washington in that poll here shortly. They received votes in the last one, and Georgia Duncan has 11 points. Washington might find its 23rd win tonight.
Georgia Duncan, a seemingly kind of quiet 11 points. She necessarily hasn't been the focal point of this team, but that just goes to show how many playmakers, contributors this Panthers team has. She's one of a couple of Panthers in double figures. Chance to go up to 12 points.
And she can't convert off the back iron. Kimler the rebound, though. The Panthers keep the possession alive, and a timeout called by Kim Barth, one of the 30-second variety.
Big offensive rebounds. I think that's something when we start to wrap it up, we're going to talk about the rebounds largely controlled by Washington tonight. They've had, I'd probably say, maybe a little less than 10 offensive rebounds, but certainly winning that category, certainly a lot of second chance points.
Offensive rebounds, you need them to stay in ball games, and Washington, again, no official stats tonight, but they've certainly passed the eye test on the boards. Mcdougall to inbound for Washington. And thanks for being with us tonight on ClutchSportsIsle.com. Metamora going to the fouls here. Vandeschraff picks up the foul call. Joey Wright and Gavin Russell in with you in the booth. Jonathan Michael behind our camera. Larry Larson behind our computer. Josh Schwab running our social media accounts tonight. Great crowd on hand at Torrey Gym in Washington for both sides. A lot of red here tonight, in addition to the orange and black that you so often see here. Truly a great atmosphere as the free throw falls for Carly Vaughn. And what a night Carly Vaughn has had. 14 points, and that's a clean 14 points, Gavin. No fouls alongside that number.
I don't want to say it too early, but I would like to think Carly Vaughn is the player of the game at this point. In with 15, made a couple of clutch baskets. Vaughn's done a good job.
Metamora can't get anything off the block there, and a foul called. And there's Lucy Wilson, one of the two seniors for the Panthers this evening. Wilson has not scored tonight. See if she can change that here and get on the board for final time at home in a Panthers uniform. Does not have it yet. I imagine, though, that Washington is going to put the ball in her hands as much as they can and try to get her to the line. And Metamora, just a couple unlucky breaks tonight, Gavin. Katie Ramage with a good rebound there, but got tripped up and called for the travel.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what happened there. I mean, I suspected we'd see a foul call, but the official was right there. Didn't feel the same way.
Redgate back in for Metamora, and the departure of Katie Lolleman-Deer. To go along with that, Duncan will inbound for Washington. IHSA postseason getting ready to start next week. Both these teams are going to factor into the regionals turnover. A rare misstep for the Panthers, who have been so good tonight offensively. Scored 33 last time these two teams played, and they've eclipsed that mark by 13 points. We've still got 2 minutes to play.
Certainly have. 5-second call right there. Nice pressure from the Metamora defense.
Redgate, who had that terrific three earlier, loses it. Here's Mcdougall chasing it. And Mcdougall will go to work, kicks it out. They swing it around. Here's Wilson. Wilson to Duncan. 80 seconds left. And Wilson will bring it back up top, between the rings, as they'd say. Redgate defending. Wilson's pass to Mcdougall, and just a little beyond Mcdougall's grasp.
I think that despite the turnover, of course you'd love to at least get a shot up and get some points on the board, but if nothing else, you took a nice chunk of time off the clock, and I think that's the only thing left for Washington to do is effectively run out the clock in this game, and Duncan and Lucy Wilson will sit down. It looks like Washington's going to go on to win this game.
Washington's going to claim this battle. They won the meeting between these teams earlier this year. But I tell you, there's that old adage, it's hard to beat a team 3 times, they say. Washington continues to find the basket, 17 points for Vaughn. But Gavin, these two teams are going to rematch in the regional semifinal on Monday. I don't think we've talked a lot about that tonight, but you know, that's the one that counts. That's the one that's going to get you to the next round of the postseason. You got to win when you get to the IHSA playoffs, and that game on Monday at Metamora, no less, might not be an 18-point decision. Ramage for 3, she's short.
I definitely think if they do meet up again, it's going to be a different ball game, and it's going to be in Metamora's gym. As you mentioned, that's the one that ultimately counts. That's the one that you either continue forward or you get sent home. So I'd like to think both these teams are going to bring their A game on Monday.
And we will have that game for you on ClutchSportsIL.com. So mark your calendars. A lot of Metamora, Washington coming up on our airwaves this week. We'll have the boys game at Metamora on Friday night. But the regular season series is going to belong to Washington. Metamora might have one more basket left. 3 doesn't fall, and the Panthers claim a share of the Mid-Illini Conference title and sweep the season series against Metamora. They win this one by 18 points, 48-30. The Panthers and the Morton Potters share the conference title this year, and the Panthers do so after a dominating effort tonight. Metamora had their moments, but Gavin, time and time again, Washington was ready to respond.
Metamora would go on a little run. They'd get a couple of stops, get a couple of scores, but then Washington would be right there with kind of a dagger. You know, Carly Vaughn had a couple of big threes. Georgia Duncan, Claire Mcdougall all had some clutch shots. We'd love to clutch up here on ClutchSportsIL.com. And Washington was certainly clutch tonight. They celebrate a big 18-point victory.
And the Orange Crush loves it. There you see the Panthers getting right over to the student section after the handshake line, and they will celebrate tonight. It is a school night, but I've got to imagine that school's going to be fun tomorrow as the Panthers now 23-5 on the year and co-conference champions are going to have a lot to look forward to.
They do, and again, it's a tough regional coming up. There's a lot of great playoff matchups in store for these teams, and you know, unfortunately, one of them's going to have to lose, and that's a really tough break. Both these teams have, you know, the ability to even make it to state, even potentially win it, but a really tough early playoff matchup. But it's definitely going to make them more battle-tested and better as the playoffs go along.
Tonight belongs to Washington, but yeah, looking ahead to that Monday matchup, hard to beat a team 3 times, whether you buy that or not. There is maybe some truth to it when both teams are so good. Metamora had chances tonight and certainly had chances in their first meeting, which Washington won by just a point. Monday is going to, I mean, that's a toss-up. That's a flip of the coin. You know, Washington, maybe you give them a little edge because they've won 2. Metamora, maybe you give a little edge because it's at home. You know, whatever way you want to go. The bottom line is that these are 2 really good basketball teams who should be proud of their regular seasons. May well both be in the next poll. You know, we'll see how that plays out. But man, that is a mark your calendar kind of first-round playoff game.
It's a tough finish for Metamora, but they're going to definitely take this one and try to get better into next week.
See how it all plays out. That'll do it for our coverage tonight. Washington, a 48-30 win over Metamora. And we'll see if that score holds on Monday on ClutchSportsIL.com, the first round of the IHSA postseason. In Metamora, we'll be there. For our entire crew, Josh Schwam, Jonathan Michael, Larry Larson, and my partner Gavin Russell, I'm Joey Wright. This has been a presentation of Mid-Illini Conference Girls Basketball. Washington claims a share of the Mid-Illini Conference title with an 18-point win over Metamora. Thanks for watching.